Welcome everyone to BoomerWorks. Excited to have you here for our presentation on fish or cut bait, prioritizing your networking efforts. This is the third in a three-part series, a summer series that we've been doing. Myself and Vern Schellinger, who is back for another cameo appearance, have been leading three different conversations on networking. For those of you who were able to attend the first two, Vern took the lead and I kind of chimed in, and now we're just going to flip the script. And if you'd like to see those recordings, you can go to boomerworks.org under the Training Center tab, and then we have a networking tab as well, and you're welcome to avail yourself of all of that. So tonight, what we're really going to be doing is focusing on your networking efforts. You know that networking is so important for your self-employment journey. Everybody's going to tell you that. It's important for any kind of activity, really, including a job search, but certainly in self-employment. But you only have so many hours in a day, right? So you need to focus. You need to figure out, who are you going to network with? So the first question that I have for you is this: who's your buyer? Who is your buyer? It's a very important question that a lot of people just neglect to ask themselves, right? We jump in, we think about the problems we're solving, we think about the services or the products that we're going to be offering, and oftentimes neglect to really specifically identify who the buyer is. Now, I want to go to actually take this to another level, because beyond the buyer, there's actually a decision maker, and they're two different people. Could be the same person, but they're often two different people. So the buyer is somebody who wants to purchase your product or service. They have an urgent problem that they need you to solve. Somehow you have identified that this person or this type of person is a likely customer, a likely client for you. But there's sometimes somebody lurking in the wings, and that's the decision maker. And the decision maker actually decides whether to purchase your product or service. Oftentimes, they are the ones that hold the purse strings, or at least influence the purse strings. Now, sometimes they are the same person. Often, actually, they are the same person, but not always. And what will happen sometimes is you go after the buyer, you go after the person that you think is going to be the one that's going to need to hire you. And then all of a sudden, we get into something called a slow sales cycle. What does that mean? Slow sales cycle means they say, great, Karen, love your product, love your service, totally want to work with you. And then you're tapping your fingers on the desk. 1 week, 2 week, 1 month, 2 months. Why? Because they actually didn't hold the purse strings. They had to convince somebody else to open up the wallet. Now, it's wonderful when that is one and the same person, but it is not always the case. So I want you to really start to think about who's the buyer, who's the decision maker. And I will tell you this as we go through this presentation. If they're the same person, you can, and you should, target that one person. If they're not the same person, you're going to have a decision to make in terms of how to prioritize your networking efforts. Do you focus on the buyer, or do you focus on the decision maker? And you're going to see in a few minutes, we're going to talk through an example of somebody selling team building services. And there's a hiring manager, and then there's an HR person, but there also might be a CFO behind. And so I want to kind of tee this up in your mind to be thinking about, who do I go after and why? So let me give you a couple of examples. So let's pretend that there's this woman, right? And she's been doing some window shopping, and she sees this gorgeous ring, and she wants to buy it for herself, but she's got a hubby, right? And not to say that the hubby owns the purse, but look, it's going to be a really expensive purchase. So she wants to at least consult with her husband, okay? So the retailer who wants to sell this woman the piece of jewelry can't just sell it to her. She has to leave it at the store, go home, consult with the hubby, and then decide, okay, but here's what the retailer's challenge. The retailer wants to close the deal, right? He's got her in the store. He wants to close that deal. And the second she walks out the door, there is at least a 50% likelihood she's never coming back, because now he's lost the momentum. She loved it, and then she forgets about it, and then they haggle. She goes to her husband and they haggle over the budget. Oh, but honey, we wanted to save this money for the kids' college, whatever. Hey, we got a broken refrigerator. So he's not as likely to be able to close the deal because he was not able to get that husband in the door. Okay, so be thinking about that. Who's the buyer? Who's the decision maker? Or does the buyer and the decision maker have to connect? Now, here's another example, and I'm going to get more into this one in a bit. So human resources professional wants team building services, and you, Sandra, offer team building services, okay? But actually the CFO may need to approve the amount. The HR person may not be able to make that decision. Now they might have their own budget. In fact, often HR people do, but not always. It depends on the cost. It might be that the HR person has a line item that they can use for, up to a certain amount. But if it's a really pricey price tag over, I don't know, let's say over 5 figures or whatever it is, then they've got to march over to the CFO and say, hat in hand, I think I need this. And then they have to convince that person. So if Sandra's the one selling to the HR person, guess what? She has to remember that there's somebody else behind the scenes, which means that what Sandra might have to do is help the HR person justify the amount, justify the service to the CFO. Okay, hoping this is making sense. So now you've got to be able to first determine the buyer and the decision maker before you start networking. Who are your buyers, number one, but also who can introduce you to the buyers or the decision makers. So here are some questions to help you identify both, right? The first is, who has the perceived need? Who has the perceived need for your product or service? So let's take a different example. Let's say a person went to the doctor, and this person is 30 pounds overweight, and the doctor says, you got to lose some weight. Well, suddenly this person has a perceived need. But then, do they actually want to pay for Vern's weight loss program, his nutrition life coach wellness program that's going to help her lose the 30 pounds in 30 days or whatever? Okay, not exactly. Well, the conditions under which she might want to, or he might want to pay, okay, let's take it, let's say it's a woman. She's got a very special event. Could be her wedding, could be, I don't know, some very special event. She's got to fit into a dress in, I don't know, 6 months, let's say. All of a sudden, who's she calling? Vern. She's calling Weight Watchers. She's calling Jenny Craig, okay? She wants to pay to get the help because now, ready? There's an urgent need. So it's not just a need, now it's an urgent need. But then there's a third question. Who's able to pay what you charge? That's a whole different question. Vern is going to be top dollar. He's got all the creds and all the letters after his name, and he charges a mint, right? Because he only works with people who can, who need the specialized service. Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, it's a little more DIY, right? It's not one-on-one coaching. So she's got to decide, do I want the DIY or do I actually want to hire a specialist who's going to work with me one-on-one? Okay, so these are some of the ways that you can actually help to identify, right, who's a realistic buyer or a decision maker. Because again, you've got to be thinking about who's that person. So if it's the woman who wants to do a weight loss program, depending on how much you charge, she might, just like that other woman, might have to go and consult with her spouse, potentially. You've got to be thinking about this. Who is actually carrying the purse strings? Who has the perceived need? Then you get into the people who can refer you, right? So who engages closely with that person who can refer me? So let's continue on with this woman. So maybe the person who's going to refer her to you is a doctor. Maybe it's a specialized kind of doctor, somebody who deals in weight issues, for example. It could even be a general practitioner, but somebody who she is likely to get advice from. So I'll give you a very, very live example. I was coaching someone, I do small business coaching. I was coaching somebody, it was yesterday. And this woman, her name is Cindy. She is a business coach. And one of the kinds of business coaching that she does is what's called exit planning. Okay. So she helps people who are small business owners to exit from their company. So she just figured out that there's a really great alliance partner right in her network. It's an exit planning, a merger and acquisition exit planning attorney. An attorney. This attorney regularly works with people who are exiting their business. He does the legal side, and what's she going to do? The business and coaching side. So he's going to be able to refer all kinds of business to her because he engages closely with her buyer. Make sense? So it could be a consultant, a service provider, somebody who's closely in that person's network. For me, for example, I do all kinds of coaching, right? Not just small business coaching. I do career coaching. Now I do some executive coaching, but there was a while, for a long time I didn't. For a long time, I just did coaching, did career coaching and recruiting actually. When I was just a career coach, I found that executive coaches, and actually even to this day, I found that executive coaches were a really great alliance partner for me. Why? Because those people were dealing with professionals, and those professionals sometimes decided that they wanted to be in job transition. So they said to their executive coach, hey, I want to start looking for a job. I need someone to write my resume, write my LinkedIn profile. Executive coach says, call Shira, because they don't do it, right? So they are great. In fact, again, to this day, I get referrals from executive coaches who don't do career transition, who want me to do that for them. But that's because we're marketing to the same person. It's the same kind, like a mid to senior level professional, right? They're exploring the next stage of life, next stage of career. And for the executive coach, they're helping them with their leadership skills, but that might also lead to something where it could be a good lead for me, okay? Now, it could also be a colleague, right? It could be somebody who works with that person, right? So it could be that you are you're marketing to IT professionals for some reason, and the person who's a colleague. So maybe you're marketing to CIOs, but you know a PMP, and a PMP oftentimes works with the IT team. So maybe in the course of your networking, when you're talking to PMPs, you're saying, look, if you have relationships with CIOs, that's a really good lead for me because of the XYZ service that I provide. Okay. Or it could be somebody else in their network. But the idea is, I'm sorry, Vern, do you want to chime in here?
Yeah, if for those of you that attended the first two sessions, again, this is about communicating your expertise to as many people as possible in your network. So, and the more they know about your expertise in the product and who your buyers are, the greater likelihood they can be a referral for you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So you've got to know what you offer. You have to know your expertise. Then, of course, you have to figure out who are you connecting with. Okay. So you don't, my point in this particular slide is that you don't have to just go in through the front door. You don't only have to target your buyer and your decision maker directly. Oftentimes, it can be even more impactful when you go to an alliance partner. Why? Because people like a trusted referral. And can I tell you, folks, it happened to me today. There is a listserv in the sector that I serve. There's a listserv, and on this listserv 2 days ago, somebody posted a note and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a good recruiter." Remember, that's one of the things I do. I'm looking for a good recruiter, and it turns out that there were people who referred me on this listserv. I didn't know, at least specifically about that. And today I get a call out of the blue, and this woman says to me, "I saw your name on this listserv. I know that there was somebody else who was asking for the need, but I happen to have a personal need as well. So because I saw you referred, I'm reaching out." Okay. The point, but why does she reach out? I didn't even know she had a need, right? And had I known she had a need, yeah, I could have gone through the front door and say, "Hey, pick me." But it was more impactful to her that a third party referred me. Does that make sense? Much more impactful. People do business with people they know, like, and trust, and people do business with people that they referred. Let's say you were looking for a plumber. Let's say you were looking for a dentist. Let's say you were looking for a new hairstylist. Where would you go? You go to the Nextdoor app. You'd go to Yelp. You'd call your neighbor. You'd call your friend. Why? Because you want a recommendation, right? You want somebody else's trusted referral to say this is a good person. Whereas if the hair salon person came to your door, or the plumber came knocking at your door, you'd say, yeah, leave your information in my mailbox. Okay. You wouldn't trust it as much because they're an unknown quantity. That's why it is so helpful to go after alliance partners, because not only are they a trusted referral to your client, but in BNI terms, business networking international terms, they'll call it the goose that lays 1,000 golden eggs. Meaning that you can have that one relationship, and that one relationship can lead to all kinds of referrals. And I've had that happen over the years, where I have one trusted partner referral, 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 referral. I don't have to do anything. All I had to do was build the one relationship. And then this person kept the eggs going. Vern, did you want to share anything else about that?
Well, Shara, in that example you just gave, what did you give back to the other person?
To which person? My alliance partner?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's the thing. It's a mutual, thank you for mentioning that. That's a mutual
Yeah.
relationship, right?
Yeah.
So to the extent that I can help that person too, I do. It's not one-sided. And that's why it's called a relationship.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about mutual support. Thank you for acknowledging that. Yeah. It's because at no stage do you ever want to go after a connection with somebody just for yourself. It's never about you, right? You want to be a go-giver. You want to be mutually supportive. When you're engaging with that person, you want to be thinking about that person on a regular basis, and saying, how can I help you? Here's an article, here's a connection, here's a something. To the extent, don't do it artificially and don't do it every day, right? But be thinking about that person. And to the extent that you can build a real trusted bond, you'll help each other naturally.
And it's those actions where you're helping each other, where the trust just gets stronger and stronger over time.
Yes, that's exactly right.
As you get to know a person, you could pick up the phone at any time and they're there to help you, and vice versa. And that's where, and then if that person really knows, if they have that same level of trust with somebody and they're referring you to that person, again, it's that trusted referral that Shara's just been talking about.
That's exactly right. And the closer you get, the more likely they're going to want to champion you and your business. Okay, so those are really, really important. So here's a caution for you. And I put this quote here from a gentleman named David A. Fields. I just think this guy is the bee's knees. He is a consultant to independent consultants. Now, I do understand that some of you who are watching this may not fancy yourself a consultant. That's okay. You might sell a product, but for those of you especially who are in the consulting world, but even so, just in general with networking, I want to caution you here and not to let a close relationship cloud your thinking about buyers and decision makers. Just because you're friendly, just because they love you and you love them, does not necessarily mean that they are a target buyer. They could be in the wrong industry, the wrong function, a business is too large or small, what have you. You cannot, just because you love each other doesn't mean they're a good prospect. Okay, so be really, really cautious. Now, they might love you, they might champion you, they might want to help you, and they might help you, but that's not necessarily a good connection. In fact, I'll give you another example from the same woman, Cindy. So I mentioned Cindy as a business coach. She's not only a business coach, but she specifically, not exclusively, but she specifically targets the technology world. So CEOs of tech companies. That would be a really good lead for her. She lives in Arizona, and she has a colleague named Becky. I've met Becky. Now, Becky is also a consultant, coach type person. Becky targets the nonprofit community. Okay, so Cindy targets the tech community, Becky targets the nonprofit community. And yesterday, Cindy was saying to me, oh yeah, well, Becky, we were having this conversation about networking. She goes, oh, well, Becky is a really great alliance partner for me. Why? Because, she does something similar to what I do. And she could refer me, potential leads. And I said, well, actually not necessarily true. Not necessarily in her case. Why? Because even though she does similar work and, maybe you think she might be able to help you, she targets such a different industry. The likelihood of her running into tech CEOs is very, very small. It would be better for you, Cindy, to network with people who are consultants to the tech community who do other things, right? Who market to CEOs, but in some other way. They offer some sort of service. It could be HR services. It could be, I don't know, brokering services, something that a tech CEO would need, but that other consultant consistently markets to that industry. And when that happens, then it's like an ecosystem. In fact, this happened to me once years ago, where I market almost often to the association community. And there's a woman, Elizabeth, that I met many years ago, and she is a marketing consultant. Nothing to do with the work that I do. I'm in HR and in recruiting and whatever. She has nothing to do. And yet one time she did. Why? because she was consulting for a large association. She was doing a marketing consultation. And as it turns out, right at the end of the engagement, that organization said to her, hey, Elizabeth, thanks so much for all your consultation. You've done such a good job. We now need to hire people to staff up the new department that you've advised us to staff up, to start. And she goes, need a recruiter? And she called me. I got 4 searches out of it. Okay. Because she and I are marketing to the same sector. She does something completely different, but we were in the same orbit. Okay. Okay. So let me give you another example. So let's go back to this team building thing. Okay. So let's say, Sandra, again, you're the team builder. Okay. You want to offer team building services. And in the course of your networking, you come across a hiring manager. Okay. Now the hiring manager has the perceived need. You know, she's got a team. You found out she's got a broken team and dysfunctional team, and they need some sort of team build. She might have the budget. She might not have the budget. So she's your buyer, right? But who might she need to go to? Aha, the HR director. Okay. So she goes to the HR director. HR director may need to be convinced that money needs to be spent, and moreover, may also need to get approval from that CFO. So do you see how now this could be a long sales cycle? Because you have this great conversation. She's like, oh my gosh, I love it. We're good. Thank you, Sandra. You're going to be great. She marches over to HR. Tap your fingers on the table. Okay. This could really take some time. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have networked with the hiring manager. It's great. Definitely do that. Manage your own expectations. Help her to make the case to HR. Now, in this particular case, you should also be networking with HR people, because now you know that HR people oftentimes are going to be the ones to make those decisions. But of course, the HR person may not have the perceived needs. So you see, it goes both ways. The hiring manager has the need for this. They know they've got a broken team. The HR person may, probably has the budget for it, has to make the decision. If you go to HR first, which is a very good thing to do, yes, HR could be the decision maker, but HR doesn't necessarily know all the team dysfunctions in the whole company. So HR may not be thinking top of mind, oh, we need a team building person here and a team building person there, until the hiring manager comes to them and says, I have a need. Okay. So you just have to be thinking from both directions in terms of who you want to network with, because they're both important. So who should you network with? So break it down. Okay. So you've got your hiring manager who's a potential buyer. You've got your HR person who's the likely decision maker. And then where's the alliance partner? Aha, the HR consultant who also markets to HR, who could refer you to the HR person. Okay, so this is where that third party comes into play. You could be marketing to the hiring manager, you could be marketing to the HR person, you could also be marketing to the consultants who's likely to know. So you've got 3 different kinds of people, at least, that could get you to the right person. Okay, so we're going to do a little breakout here. Michael, we're going to tee you up in a second, but here's what's going to happen in the networking. We're going to pair you up one-on-one, and I want you to be thinking about this for your business. Now, I don't care where you are in your process. You could have just you could just be in conceptualization mode. You just have an idea for a business. You could have started your business. You could be 10 years into your business. It doesn't matter. It's the same. You have to think about this no matter where you're at. So I want you to think about with your partner, who's your buyer? Who's your potential buyer? Do you think there's a different decision maker who has the purse strings, or it could be the same person? And then who might be a referred connection, or again, an alliance partner, the colleague, the consultant, the somebody in their network who could refer you to the buyer or the decision maker. All right. So that's what you're going to be talking about. So Michael, would you go ahead and put us into just rooms of 2?
So that'd be 3 rooms, 3 breakout rooms.
1, 2, 3, 4. There should be 4 breakout rooms, not including Michael, not including myself, Vern, or yourself. So
All right.
4 rooms.
We're ready. Remind everybody.
So when you see your see the blue join button, just hit it, and you'll go into the room. We'll put on for 10 minutes, and then we'll bring you guys back. Okay.
And here's the connect.
Thanks.
And we have to move Steve.
Move Steve over to room 3. Actually, I can move him.
I got it.
Okay.
Sure, I'm getting a join button.
Yeah, go ahead. You can ignore it.
Yeah, you don't need to.
Okay.
So we got one room with 4 people in it now.
And I'm just going to pause the recording for just a moment for our 10 minutes, and we'll pick back up. Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully that was a good conversation. So we'd like to do some call outs here. And who would like to raise their hand and share with the group? First of all, very, very briefly, what your business idea is or what your business is if you've started it, and who is your buyer and or decision maker, and who might be a good alliance partner. Who'd like to start? I can call on you. Karen, I know you like to share. You're on mute.
Which Karen? There's 2 of us.
Sorry, McCann, you. Sorry.
Okay, that we had a very good session. We all had an opportunity to speak. Donald got a little short on the time that he had, but anyway, we talked through. Each of us, I think, had something important to share. Regarding my business status, I've actually started my own little IT company down here in Research Triangle. It's been in place now for about a year. I've been actually working with Michael on a couple of things on the side, starting some partnerships with that. Regarding what I'm looking for is people who would be, I'm providing consulting services, right, strategic planning, and I'm not like selling widget, I'm selling, kind of planning services and project management services for small to medium sized IT companies who might be looking to then go from there. And so the buyers would be CTOs of small to medium sized companies. The decision makers would be people who would have the budgets, probably the chief accounting people inside these companies. And then the consultant, it was that bridge. And Steve and I were talking about the difficulty of identifying what that bridge would be, is to getting to the people who would be willing to buy.
Okay, so did you come to any more clarity around who the alliance partner might be? In other words, who is selling to the CTO? Does that make sense? So okay, so let's get clear. Your CTO is your buyer, correct?
Yes.
Is that right?
Well, of small to medium-sized companies.
Yeah, of a small to medium-sized company. Okay. I want you to be that CTO for a minute. You are now that person. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of consultants, what kind of service providers are knocking down that person's door for business? Who else is selling to them?
People with similar objectives. I mean, other people who want
so
to.
So a CTO, for example, they might get a vendor who calls them selling a software product, or selling some sort of IT, a different kind, like you're offering project management services, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's a different kind of IT consultant who comes at them and says, let me help you with your digital transformation. I don't know. In other words, that CTO has a bunch of consultants that are probably selling to him or her. You're one of them, but there's all those other people too. All of those other people could be potential alliance partners for you. So let me make it personal, okay? So I have different kinds of buyers. One of my buyers is HR for associations. Now, if I'm an HR person, who's selling to me? Benefits brokers, other kinds of HR consultants who, might do, I don't know, team building or something, employment attorneys, payroll vendors, get it? I'm an HR person. I got all these people selling to me. So now, now I'm going to be me again. I'm going to be Shira again. So if I want to have alliance partners who are also marketing to that HR person, I might network with a benefits broker. I might network with a team building person. I might network with the employment attorney, because they're all talking to my customer. They
Yeah.
might hear about an opportunity for me because they're talking to the person that I buy from. Does that make sense?
They'd be selling potentially a different service in a different way. And I think what was the phrase that you used in an earlier seminar? A tide floats all boats, or something like that. Rising tide floats all boats. So it isn't a because I get it, they don't. It can be collaborative.
Oh, it's total win-win.
Yeah. So as you're networking, Karen, so, once you can kind of identify these other people when you're networking, even if it's somebody who's not there, they say, how can I help you? You ask the question, do you know anyone who's selling to CTOs,
That's
digital transformation, selling, anything to CTOs?
Yeah.
Anyone in your network have, connections to that kind of world? Now, probably most of the people might say no, but all it takes is one yes.
Yeah, that's true.
And they could introduce you to someone.
Exactly right.
Thank you. Good idea.
Yeah. You want to find people who market to your target customer. Those are great alliance partnerships. They can be, I should say. Okay.
Right.
Now, some are going to be better than others. Now, let me get a little bit more specific, getting back to that HR example. So, an HR consultant, okay, who does team building services, that kind of thing, is probably going to be a better referral source for me than a benefits broker. Why? The HR consultant, when they're talking to the HR person, the client, they're talking about people problems, staffing problems, employee engagement problems, people problems, staff problems.
Mhm.
The benefits broker, when they're talking to the HR person, they're talking number stuff, benefits, right? 401k plans, medical insurance. They're not talking about people problems. Meaning the HR consultant is more likely to hear about recruiting challenges than the benefits broker would be. The benefits broker maybe will hear about a recruiting challenge, but it's very unlikely. Does that make sense?
Long shot. Yeah.
You've got to be thinking about not only the person that sells to your target, but what's the likelihood of that person naturally hearing about a problem that you can solve. So going back to my executive coaching story, perfect scenario. That executive coach is talking about a person who's looking at their career. It's very likely that at some point in their engagement with that person's going to say, I think I'm going to look for a job and I need a resume. Very likely. Now, a life coach may not. So I shouldn't spend my time networking with life coaches. They're lovely people, I'm sure, right? But if a person is targeting a life coach, they're talking about their whole life. Their career may be part of it, but it's not as likely that the life coach is going to hear about a problem that I can solve in my, let's say, career coaching hat. Get it? So don't only think about the
how do you once you've identified this target, how do you network with them?
Okay. So in the next part of our presentation, okay. Yeah.
Oh,
so, well,
okay. We're not there yet.
Well, the next part of the presentation, actually, I'm going to show you guys like where to find these people. Okay. We're going to call it goldfish and purple fish. It'll make sense in a few minutes. But I actually did not have a slide where we talk about how to have the conversation. So I'll address that quickly right now. Once you actually find them, okay. And in fact, Vern has a whole model about this in his business called Context Count. But I'm just going to do a little drop in the ocean around it. Your goal, whenever you have a one-on-one relationship with an alliance partner, is to develop a mutually beneficial relationship. It's not about you. It's not about them. It's about both of you together, each of you being what we call a go-giver, not a go-taker. You are not there to get business from them per se. You're there to have a relationship with them. Now, if you're networking with the right person and you have the right relationship, the business will often follow. But you go in with a servant's heart. You go in relationally. You go in with wanting to offer them something, help them, and likewise, they should want to help you. So you develop a relationship, okay? You have a networking coffee and you say, hey, Susie, Great to meet you. Maybe you guys met at a networking event or whatever. Somehow you got, or someone introduced you, somehow you got on the Zoom call or in person. And you start out by saying, so Susie, tell me about what you do. You ask them first. You ask, a real go-giver asks the other person first what they do and how you can help them. You do not start, you make them start. Okay, that's a real go-giver. And so you say, Susie, so tell me what you do. Tell me what a good lead is for you. Who are your clients? What are the business challenges keeping you up at night? You just start, and she'll start sharing and sharing and sharing. And what are you doing? You're listening, you're engaging with her, you're curious, you ask questions, and then you're thinking to yourself, how can I be a solution to Susie's problems? And now your mental Rolodex is clicking along. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, she just mentioned that she has a need for blah, blah, blah. I know somebody. And you're chatting with her and you're like, hey, here's the person's email, or you're making an introduction right then, you're like, oh, you've got to meet Fred, and you're now helping her. Hey, I've read this book. Hey, I got this article. Hey, there's this networking group. I think you should get it. So you're trying to give to her before you're asking for anything. Earn the right to ask. Is that helpful?
Yeah. And let me just tag on to what Shira just said, for all of you to just think about what Shira said when she, said she's asking all of these questions. What you're trying to do is learn as much as you can about the other person so that you can give. So at Context Count, we say it's teaching and giving. So the more you learn about the other person, the greater likelihood you will be able to give in some way. Shira gave a few examples. And then at some point, you'll have the opportunity to teach them about you and who you are and what you're doing and what's important to you. And the more you teach them about you, the greater likelihood they'll be able to give back. And that's how, again, it becomes a mutually beneficial relationship. And over time, you build more and more trust with each other. And then you can become what we refer to as advocates for each other. You can help each other in lots of different ways.
Champions for each other.
Yeah.
You want to help that person. You want to. You're proactively thinking about them and they're thinking about you.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. All right, let's do one more person here from the breakout groups. Who was your buyer? Who's your decision maker? Who's a good alliance partner for you? Steve.
Okay, mine's a little bit different, but let me set it up. I'm setting up a nonprofit that is going to focus on those providing low cost or no cost services, financial coaching services to those entering the workforce. So recent college grads, those about ready to graduate, would be like the key demographic I'd be working with. And there's several different sources of clients, but I'm going to focus on the sources of funding for the organization. So an alumni association might be one, but there's another one that is like money management firms, financial planning firms, right? They deal with people that have a good bit of money, but a lot of times these people will have children that are graduating from school, and really the parents want to make sure that they're educated, financially literate, and doing a good job of managing their money. So if this money management firm can provide a free resource to their clients to come into my group and have some financial coaching, and that's something they might want to fund. So the buyers in this case are the individual money managers, financial planners. A decision maker may be for that the whoever controls the purse strings, whether it's CFO or lower level down in the financial organization of the firm. And where I'm really stuck is referral partners. So outside, I have several financial planning firms that I'm working with, but how do I expand that to other? How do I replicate this model to other financial planning firms to, spark their interest in this?
I guess I need to be a little bit more clear. What are you selling to the financial planning firm?
I am selling a service to their extended client base that they do not currently provide. So they are managing money for wealthy individuals, but those wealthy individuals may have children or friends that are graduating from school
Right.
that need some financial literacy, budgeting, basic money management skills.
Okay. And now again, your question is what?
So I have, just through past experience, I have several financial planning firms that I'm
Right.
currently engaged with, but how do I expand this stable of financial planning firms? How do I get referred to other firms?
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to be talking about in a minute this goldfish pond concept, but it's you're going to see in a second. It's the idea of fishing where the fish are. So press pause on that.
Okay.
Talk about that because your goal is to figure out where those people hang out. Okay. And when
Right.
you do, you start swimming with them. So hold that thought. Okay.
Okay.
Let's do
Good.
that. All right. So does anyone else want to share their buyer or their decision maker or alliance partner? Okay. So let me go ahead and get back here. All right. So here you go. Find your buyers. There you go, Steve. Wrote this just for you. Fish where the fish are. And I mentioned David A. Fields earlier. I quoted from him before. I do want to really give a plug for him. Again, he's a consultant to independent consultants. He has a fantastic book called The Irresistible Consultant's Guide to Finding Clients, I think it is. Just go to davidafields.com. He has a free newsletter. He's funny. He's great. Highly recommend him. I really need to get him as a speaker on BoomerWorks one day. Anyway, so he says, fish where the fish are. Now, this concept is my concept, but he has a fish where the fish are concept. I kind of riffed off of it. And I have this idea called goldfish and purple fish networking. What in the world do I mean by that? So here you go. Goldfish, okay? When you are networking, the goldfish in that networking group are people who have similar interests. They're in a similar profession. They're in a similar industry. They have similar likes, similar what it could be any. We are a bunch of goldfish here. Why? The one thing that binds us all together in this call is the fact that we're all interested in self-employment opportunities. And if you are our traditional BoomerWorks crowd, you're over 50. Okay, that's it. That's other than that, we're all different businesses, different everything. But this is the one thing that binds us together. So when you're thinking about where to go or how to find your potential buyer, think about the places where your buyers swim. What networking groups do they go to? What do they read? Who are they talking to? What are they listening to? Where are they going to get information that helps them make good decisions? So Steve, you talked about financial planning firms. There's an association called the Association of Financial Professionals, AFP. As an example, now, I don't know if they have I presume they have chapters, most associations do. Could that be a goldfish pond for you? Absolutely. But when you go to a goldfish pond, you want to be thinking about this other concept of being a purple fish. So the people in the goldfish, you as a purple fish are the people, you're the person rather, in the goldfish pond that offers something unique to them. Okay, it's your unique value to them. So let me give you an example. Let's talk about me and Vern. So Vern and I met years ago, I don't know, 10 years ago, something.
Probably longer than that, Chair.
Probably longer than that. In a group called the HR Leadership Forum. Okay, the HR Leadership Forum is for HR executives. Now, I'm not an HR executive, although I jokingly say I play one on TV, but I'm not one. Vern was at the time. He was a VP of HR for an association. So he and I met there. He was a classic goldfisher. I was a goldfish only in the sense that I, knew enough to be dangerous about HR, but I was really a purple fish because I did something different than HR executives. Okay, I recruited. So I offered a unique value. The way that I like to think about the goldfish, purple fish is everybody's here in the goldfish pond, and then here comes the purple fish, and everybody goes, oh, wait, you do something different. You do something that's purple. It's different. Okay. Likewise, when I network with association consultants, in fact, Michael Butera, who's hosting our call tonight, this is how he and I met, okay, through the association community. At the time, Michael was a CEO of an association. And I was starting a networking group for association CEOs. We lasted for like 10 years. And I networked with him, right? Meaning he was part of my association Goldfish pond, but I was the purple fish that offered something that he didn't do. So what'll happen is when I'm with HR people, it's funny. When I'm with HR people, yeah, I'm seen as the goldfish, the purple fish recruiter. I'm also seen as that association girl because I really market to associations. So when I'm with my HR people, I'm the association purple fish. When I'm with my association goldfish, I'm the HR purple fish, okay? So you've got to be thinking about what is your unique value to that group. And I will tell you, the more unique your value, the more purple you become. What do I mean by that? Well, there are some people who are not this rich purple. They're kind of lavender, right? Meaning they do something that is not really all that different from what's going on in there. So let me bring in the Cindy example to you. So as I mentioned, Cindy's a business advisor. She markets to CEOs of small tech companies. Fine. She's very purple to them. If she were to go to a tech networking group, right, where a bunch of CEOs would be, how many business advisors do you think would actually be in the networking in that room? Probably very few. She might even be the only one. So she would really be a flaming purple, like you do something way different. Now, by contrast, there are a bunch of IT consultants, Karen, to our earlier point, IT consultants who would also be in that room. They're kind of lavender. There's a bunch of them. They're not, the CEOs kind of expect them to be there. Yeah, they might talk to them, but they also might be a little standoffish, like, oh, another salesperson. They're different, but they're not a flaming purple because they're not too different from the other IT consultants that are there. But if you are the one that does something totally different, they are much more likely to look to you because you're not the normal, you're not the commonplace, you're not the person that they're going to be seeing every day. And yet you offer something different. So Steve, I will tell you, you are going to be like electric purple. If you go to a financial planning networking event, how many people in that room are offering financial planning services to the children of the people that the financial planners, come on, like, I don't even know how many people do that anyway, let alone the people who are going to be networking in that room. So that's why you're going to stand out quite a bit if you go and network. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. So this is the concept of goldfish and purple fish. Now let's make it more specific. So how do you, or where can you be a purple fish in a goldfish pond? And there are 5 different areas, and I'm going to break them down in the successive slides, right? We got networking groups, and networking groups could be, anything from a formal one like business BNI, the Business Networking International, to generic, Joe's networking group that meets at the Silver Diner down the street, whatever. They could be any kind of networking meetup groups, could be associations, or professional societies where your prospective buyer, is either they're in that profession or they're in that industry. It could be the alliance partners that we were just talking about. It could be peer networking roundtables that you start. It could be public speaking opportunities. There's others too, but these are some of the ones that were top of mind for me. So let's break them down. So let's talk about networking groups and associations. So there's a difference between professional societies and trade associations. And I'm not trying to get all up in the nomenclature with you because that's not as important. But what is important is that a professional society is an organization whose members are individuals who belong to the same profession. AICPA, the American Institute of CPAs, who are their members? Drum roll, right? CPAs. Society for Human Resource Management, who are their members? Human resources professionals. Go on and on. American Bar Association, lawyers. American Medical Association, doctors. Same kind of thing. Those are all professional societies. And if you are marketing to a person who's in a specific profession, where that person considers themselves a professional, maybe they're certified, they have a degree in it, their career is that thing, that profession, likely than not, they belong to a professional society. A trade association is different. Like a professional society, is a membership organization, but it's very different in that the trade association's members are companies or institutions, okay? So Steve, in your case, you have to think about, who are you going after? Are you going after the financial planner, and or are you going after the financial planning firm? They're going to be two different associations. One is going to be for the planner who wants to get their credentials and all that stuff. And the other is going to be for the firm, right? So that they can be a better business. Why not both? In your case, you're probably going to find both.
Right.
You're going to be able to market to both. Okay. And then, as I mentioned, there's business networking groups. And the thing about business networking groups is that, again, unlike other than BNI, again, Business Networking International, which I will tell you is a very formal group. BNI, there are BNIs everywhere, all over the world, literally. Here in the DC area, I mean, probably too many to count. They're a very formal group. They tend to be people who are selling usually what's called B2C, business to consumer, oftentimes real estate agents and mortgage brokers and landscapers and that kind of thing. So you have to think about who's in that networking group that would be appropriate for you to network with. So I went to a BNI group years ago, not right for me because I do B2B or mostly B2B work. So BNI group would not be appropriate for me because the people in that group would not be good alliance partners for me, usually, with rare exception. Now, there are a lot of ones that are under the radar. You'll never know about them. But how do you find out about them? You start asking people. As you're networking with other consultants, ask them, do you belong to a networking group? 50% of the time they'll say yes. Well, what's it called? Acme, whatever, right? That meets on the fourth Tuesday at a Silver Diner, okay? You would never know about it because these networking groups are typically referral only, by invitation only. You're not going to find them typically on, some public website. It's going to be people referring people. So as you're networking with people who are in your industry or in your profession, or people who market to the same industry or profession, ask them, is there a networking group that you go to that you trust, that you enjoy? I'd love to check it out. Okay, so that's a way to find these people. So Steve, if you can find an alliance partner who actually markets to the same people, to the financial planning people, ask him or her, do you belong to a networking group? You never know, okay?
Yeah, great idea.
Sure. And again, going back to alliance partners, we've been talking about this now a lot, so I won't spend a lot of time on here. But remember, it's best when you go after an alliance partner if they either offer a complimentary service to you or they sell to the same industry. So like I said, the executive coach to me offers a complimentary service to career coaching. But then going back to the Cindy example, that attorney, actually does offer complimentary service, but more importantly, markets to the same CEO of the exit, somebody who wants to do exit planning. Okay, so we've already spent time on this. Now, this is a really cool idea that I've done many times. Pre-COVID, I used to do it all live. Now it's Zoom. And this is something that is a road less traveled. Most people don't even know to do this or think to do this. You start your own networking roundtable. You don't have to always join somebody else's. Do join other people's, but don't just rely on that. Start your own. So easy. Oh my gosh. You know why? Because people love to network. And most people would not take the time, most professionals would not take the time to start their own networking roundtable. So I gave this idea to Cindy. Okay. Think of it. If you're a CEO of an IT firm, do you think you have the time to go start a networking roundtable? Of course not. You're too busy fighting fires. Now, if a Cindy convened the roundtable for you, might you be likely to show up? Maybe. Yeah, sure. Let's skin off his back or her back, right? Show up for an hour. Okay. And the reason why this is so powerful is because, first of all, it's free. Now, there is a paid version. I'll share that in a second, but generally speaking, it's free. You can be the subject matter expert. You come in there knowing something about what they do. And what you're doing is you're simply facilitating a conversation. So Michael, for years, as I mentioned, was part of the CEO roundtable that I facilitated. Michael, you could even talk about it. I'm going to mention it, but you can share your own experience. But all I did was I just went out and I just got CEOs in my network and pulled them together. And I had actually a couple other colleagues help me do that. And we would have these usually monthly or bi-monthly meetings. And, 10 people, 12 people, 15 people, whatever. And what would we do? We'd sit there and I'd open up, hey, welcome everybody. Okay, fine. And I say, all right, everybody go around the room, introduce yourself. So everybody did a little intro, my title and company and whatever, what the association did. And then I'd say something like, all right, let's talk about issues du jour. Who's got a fire in the kitchen or smoke in the living room? Some problem that you want to talk about. There'd be silence for about 15 seconds. And then someone would go, I got one. And they would share. Oh, I got a problem with my board. I got a problem with my staff person. Wah, 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 wah. And everybody would chime in and ask them questions and give them advice. And then we get into conversation. And then eventually somebody else would either riff off of that, like something similar, or they would start a new, a new topic. Michael, what was your experience when you were in that group? Michael, you're on mute.
And I love to talk. I mean, give me a break. So, the experience was exactly as Sherry explained it. The really, excuse me, really good part about networking like that is you get to know these people one-to-one, even though there's multiple people in the room. And, what I used to do was I would then try to find one person in the group to extend a special coffee invitation to, or a lunch or something like that. And that converted into 3 or 4, business agreements for me over time. So I spent an hour in a room, maybe an hour and a half in a room, and it more than paid for itself in terms of my time and energy by getting some additional work. The other part about it was people get to see what your skills are, and that's very valuable. Particularly in the association world. They get to understand, your language, whether or not you fit with the way they see the world. So those are all real positive things. It's a great networking opportunity. Of course, COVID came along and we were unable to do most of those kinds of things again. But I certainly would recommend, others trying to put together their own groups.
Absolutely. And what'll happen here is as you simply facilitate the conversation, you're listening for opportunities to solve their problems through your service. So just like Michael, I had many of those opportunities. I would sit and, I wasn't selling anything. I wasn't, gratuitously inserting myself in the conversation. But if there was some natural place for me to be a colleague, just a colleague, and just chime into the conversation naturally, sometimes that would lead to an offline conversation, where the problem, the very problem that they were trying to solve is something that actually I could help them with. So I'd offer a little bit of advice in the room, and then I do an offline with them and say, hey, Susie, we talked about this in the discussion, happy to give you some more advice. Then all of a sudden, lo and behold, it turns into an engagement. Okay. But it's all very natural, very authentic, very, genuine. You're never overselling. You're never pushing yourself on anybody. You're simply offering yourself. You're offering yourself as a convener of a roundtable to be a help, so that what you're doing is you're helping other people connect with each other. You're actually almost behind the scenes. You're convening it and you're like facilitating, but not over facilitating. You're just there to guide the conversation a little bit, and they're talking to each other. And, there's a bit of a halo effect because you're the one who convened it. So they're thankful, they're grateful, but they're making wonderful connections with each other. And that's part of the point, right? You're just there to facilitate a conversation. Okay. Any questions about that? So it's a little bit of a different concept, right? I will tell you that there is a paid version of this, and I'm going to share with you one example. A colleague of mine named Lisa, she is a marketing consultant. So basically she markets to CMOs. She's a marketer, but she provides marketing consultation to chief marketing officers. And I was giving her this idea about 10 years ago or so, and she decided to monetize it. What she did was she went on LinkedIn and she found CMOs, and she said, hey, I'm starting a networking thing. It turns out CMOs had like no place to go. Who knew? They didn't have any place to go. So she brought them together, and she decided that she wasn't just going to do this like light facilitation. She was going to charge them some serious money, almost like a Vistage group. And something, I don't know, it was like $1,000 a month. It was some like money. And she didn't just facilitate a conversation. She became a thought leader. She prepared for that meeting. She brought in speakers. She did research. She gave case studies. She like really, really, really went the extra mile to make their money worthwhile. And then on top of that, she brought in sponsors. She got paid sponsors who wanted to get airtime with these CMOs, charge them chunk of change. She told me several years ago that as a result of all of this whole roundtable thing became 60% of her revenue. Just the networking roundtable, not forget the residual business, just the actual roundtable itself. So it is monetizable if you want to go ahead and do that. But otherwise you can just keep it for free. Okay. Public speaking. Now I know not everybody here is a public speaker. That's okay. But if you fancy yourself that way, if you feel comfortable, you can go to the local chapters of the associations where your buyers are members. So that AICPA group or the AFP, Steve, it could be, that, maybe there's an opportunity for you to speak on something that relates to how to provide value-added service to your clients by considering the needs of their recent grad children, whatever. Okay. But you contact those chapters, and oftentimes those chapters are looking for good speakers. You can create your own forum. You can do a webinar like this, or a podcast, or you find somebody else who's doing another speaking engagement and you become a panelist for them. So many ways that you can get out there and do public speaking. Okay, so let's get into like our final discussion here before our time. And we don't have to go into breakout rooms. I just want to have an open discussion. Given everything that I just shared around opportunities to find goldfish ponds, right? Where do you think would be right for you? So do you think maybe it's a certain kind of networking group? Is it maybe a certain kind of association? Maybe you don't even know what the association is, but you're thinking to yourself, there probably is one for this. Is there, again, a certain kind of alliance partner? Might you be interested in starting a peer networking roundtable? Might you be interested in public speaking? Or is there something else here? Something else, another place where you can find your goldfish, where you can show up as a purple fish. All right, so let's go ahead and open up the conversation. And I just want to hear, what did this generate for you? This last piece around goldfish and purple fish. What are your thoughts, ideas? What do you think you could do or would be interesting for you to do? And also what fits your personality? Because some of you might be better networkers than public speakers, or maybe you're just a one-on-one relationship builder and you'd rather just do an alliance partnership and you don't want to, do something more in a group setting. What are you thinking?
Well, for me, one simple thing that you said that is really, I think, going to be powerful is just ask people which networking groups they belong to, right? So that's a quick way. I have several contacts into financial planning firms, and that's the quick way to hopefully reach a larger audience, or at least identify where that larger goldfish pond is, right?
Yep. Good point.
Yep.
Steve. Thanks, Steve. Karen B. What is this all generating for you?
Unmute. I'm thinking maybe associations, because there's a few groups. I'm not entirely sure yet who I'm marketing to just yet. I'm kind of tossing different ideas around, but I'd like to develop wellness programs, nutrition programs for seniors. And so I'm thinking in terms of, nonprofit associations.
All right, so here's one for you. They're a client, actually. This is the only reason why I know them. It's called AMDA. It used to stand for the Association of Medical Directors, but now it's just the Association for Post-Acute and Long-Term Care. Their members are nursing homes. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So nursing homes could be, or long-term care facilities, or any sort of residential group could be a place for you to target, or the associations where those people are members. That makes sense?
Well, yeah. I mean, the problem is, like, my background is nursing homes. I have extensive nursing home experience.
Okay.
I'm trying to get away from that. All nursing homes have dietitians. So they would utilize their own dietitians.
I see. So you'd be competition for their internal staff.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So then think about who, so think about the people who would be your, well, actually, I think buyer and decision maker is the same person. It sounds to me like, well, okay, the older adult, there's the older adult, and then there's their children, their adult children, right? So I'm guessing, you tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing that the older adult, depending on their situation, might be your buyer. I'm guessing that the adult child might be your buyer. Is that right? Could be one or both.
Or the nonprofit agency that wants to have programs for their seniors. So, you know, like something like Senior Planet or
Okay.
the different, where they want educational programs for senior.
So you're,
Like-
are you offering, well, are you offering group training or are you also offering one-on-one?
I'd rather do group.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're
Yeah.
not going to do business to consumer. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's why you said the nonprofit. So that, so
yeah.
do these nonprofits have a commonality? Are they nonprofits that are all just senior oriented? Or could they be doing other things?
Usually it's providing services for seniors. So it could be for health and wellness type things, but it may also be other resources that seniors would need.
Okay.
Have you done any research with AARP? I mean, there's an organization that, is catering to all aspects of seniors.
They might. I'm thinking also like Iona Senior Services is like that kind of group.
I have not heard of that one.
IONA. So they provide services to seniors. JCA provides services.
Yeah.
to seniors, you're talking about
Yeah.
those groups, yeah.
What
JCA
other-
I'm familiar with, yeah.
Yeah.
And JSSA is another one. Yeah, there's actually quite a few out there, but the challenge has been, and I'm just getting started with this, but trying to figure out how to market this to them.
So it's not necessarily finding them, it's how to present your offering.
Yeah,
Right. Which is a different, a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
For
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying, I think like, I was thinking association groups would be where I would find these people, and then I would.
Yeah, if there's an associate,
Market.
like what I don't know, and I don't know if Michael or Vern, you would know because you're both in that world too. What I don't know is which associate, although maybe I do know. There's an so there, yes, there's a group called so there's one called or used to be called the home, no, sorry. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
Home providers, is that what you-
Association for, I think, for the JCAs of the world.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Gosh, what is it called? I'd have to, you know what? I think I'd have to get back. Oh, you know what? I think I know the person who works there. Hold on.
While she's looking up, Karen, say again.
Leading age.
Leading edge. That's
Leading age.
Leading edge.
No, age.
Edge?
AGE. Yeah.
Okay,
So here is their LinkedIn page, not their website, just their LinkedIn page. They represent more than 5,000 nonprofit aging service providers and other mission-minded organizations that touch millions of lives every day. Blah, blah, blah.
okay, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So I don't know if they have, in fact, no, actually, I do believe they have chapters.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. And they have state
In fact,
organizations.
the person's profile is actually, she's their head of, she's the head of membership. So if you want to connect with her, her name
I
is,
don't know where Karen's located, but there's a group in Virginia and in Maryland
Yeah, I'm in Maryland. I'm in Montgomery County.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure
this person
there's
is the head
definitely a
membership.
leading edge. Yeah, in fact, I spoke at their conference the year before the pandemic here in Maryland. So
Okay.
I don't remember who the contact is. Is your email in the chat? I'll try to look that up and send it to you.
Okay, I will put it in there. Thank you.
Mhm.
Great. All right. We have a few more minutes left. Who else would like to share or have an idea, or we could give you some advice? Joni, did you want to chime in?
There it goes. I'm still sort of just trying to absorb it all.
All good. We're here for that too. Don, did you have anything to share? You're on mute. Don, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm trying to provide something unique and creative potential clients in the way of policy research.
Mm.
But the thing I'm struggling with, which may not be appropriate for this particular discussion that we're in right now, is how to convince decision makers that what I have to offer is really unique and creative and something interesting to them.
Well, this is where you have to get into the headspace of not convincing people, but trying to figure out who would naturally value what you have and want to pay for it. That takes a lot of thinking. It really does. It's because I will tell you, it's a very hard sales cycle when you have to convince anybody of anything. But when somebody naturally has the pain point, they're actually trying to find you, if you want to know the truth. Right? Like I never tried to get people to try to convince people, oh, you need to hire a recruiter. They either know that they do or they don't. They either can do it themselves or they don't have the time, expertise, or whatever. And then they're looking for a recruiter, right? So in your case, be thinking, under what conditions would somebody value what you have enough to pay for it? Because they're getting that information some other way. So why is there some way that they're typically getting it now that you think to yourself, you know what, I do it better, or I do it cheaper, or I do it with more higher quality, or more convenient, or something that is different than what their current experience is?
A compelling, a compelling value proposition.
Right.
In other words, the unique thing that you do is so compelling that, wow, we haven't seen this before. This is new and different. This is more helpful than the policy information we got before.
Yeah, maybe it's more. I don't know. I don't know your whole what you're offering exactly, right? Maybe it's more refined, more unique, more specialized, more something. Than in other words, why would you even think to offer it unless you thought that somebody couldn't get it otherwise?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, my work is on urban policy issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Redistributive justice, affordable housing, sustainability.
So like the Urban Institute would be a good.
Yeah. But I'm struggling to convince myself, first of all, and then others, that I really do have something unique and something that they would value highly.
Don, have you reached out to your network of colleagues who know what you do and know something about what you do, and discussed it with them in terms of, here's what I'm thinking, what's your advice, what's your thoughts about this?
I'm trying to do that. Yeah, I've been working on the print equivalent of an elevator pitch.
Okay.
And I'm going to be I've actually been working on that recently, and I'm hoping to approach people in places like the Urban Institute and Brookings, especially, but not only those places. And hopefully I can convince them that I do have something unique, and original. It's primarily in terms of spotting problems in the policy literature that other people didn't solve, and suggesting solutions for them. That's how I would. That's not a completely adequate, but it's somewhat adequate capsule summary of, my unique value proposition.
Got it. Well, it's
Okay.
niche, and niche is important
Yeah.
because niche means different. Niche means purple.
Yeah, I'm definitely purple, I think, but again, I'm struggling with trying to interpret what I do in terms of the needs of these organizations, because as you said, we need to consider how we can help other people, and particularly these other companies, more than just helping ourselves.
Exactly. What are the urgent problems that you're in a unique position to help yourself?
Yeah.
Good.
Dawn, one thing that comes to mind is a company called CoreLogic, or they deal with like financing of mortgages and what is it, like sustainability, low income housing. They deal with a number of things, but they're also really heavy into policy, but particularly in terms of the housing.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, well, we're at time. Hopefully this was helpful for everyone. So this recording, along with our other trainings, are on our BoomerWorks site. And I'd like to direct you guys there for those of you who are not familiar with what we're up to. So we are, we're an all volunteer organization, BoomerWorks is. We're here to serve the 50+ population, to help all of you re-career into self-employment. Everything we do is for free. We offer these educational programs once a month. And then a couple weeks later, we offer something called a growth group, which is a peer networking situation group just like this. And it's myself and Michael Butera joins me, and we have a couple of other small business experts, and we do this very thing. We talk about whatever issue actually is top of mind, and we solutionize together. But it's not on a particular topic, it's just whatever topic you'd like to talk about. So our training center is here on our boomerworks.org website. So if you go to boomerworks.org, go to training center, and we have all of these different tabs. And so for example, under marketing your business, you'll see crafting your elevator pitch. And here was one of Vern's topics on transforming your elevator pitch into a teaching story. And then last month we did this, the second in our series of accessing your hidden network. And then you'll below here, right? I'll be posting this video as well. And then we have, digital content marketing, all kinds of things for you. Okay. So, feel free to avail yourself. These are all live trainings just like this. And a lot of them have downloads at the very bottom, all kinds of different things that you can avail yourself of. All right. So we invite you to check us out. And if you want to keep in touch or actually find out what our upcoming meetings are, go to the meetups tab, go to upcoming events, and then you'll see at the bottom here what our upcoming events are. Okay. So we look forward to seeing you at another BoomerWorks event. Share this with your friends and colleagues, and we will look forward to seeing you again. Have a blessed night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Night.
Bye-bye.